Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second session in the Make Your Idea Happen Summer 2017 series. Today, all about creating your project. So my name is Sammy Morger. I'm broadcasting live today from Crowdfunder HQ in Newquay. We're also joined, really luckily, by my colleague Bertie, who's one of our crowdfunding coaches, and also by Rory from Greenbirds.
Hey.
So first of all, Rory, just so everyone knows who you are and a little bit about your project, can you tell us a bit about Greenbirds?
Yeah, sure. Greenbirds is a coffee social enterprise. We're aiming to foster community and tackle social isolation in West London. Ultimately, our aim is to change Londoners' relationship with each other and with work as well. Our crowdfunder was to raise £20,000, and that was to do two things, really. It was to buy new equipment. Coffee equipment's expensive. And also to make a kind of a jump from doing pop-ups to eventually a permanent venue and a more consistent venue. So that was the goal.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. So today, as I said, we're talking specifically about creating the perfect project page. Obviously, we covered planning already last week, and we're going to be looking at running your project next week. So do bear in mind that there is tons and tons of help online on the Crowdfunder website that you can access at any time that you'd like to. This pack specifically is downloadable, and it has lots and lots of guidance on things like what to call your project, what kind of titles work, how to use videos, how to tell your story, and even things like setting the right target for your project. So do have a look at those. And what they also include is lots of really great examples, which of course is one of the absolute best ways to learn, is by having a look at what other people have already done. So jump straight into that pack to see those. So today we're going to focus on a couple of key parts of creating the perfect project page, specifically your story and also rewards. So, Rory, what do you think is the most important thing to think about when you start to craft a page?
Well, my background's in communications, and so stories is something I think about a lot. And I think there were two things, really. The first thing, and I'd say the most important thing in telling any story, is you've got to communicate why you're doing something. There's a sort of darling of TED International. You can go look up his talks, called Simon Sinek, and he talks about something called the golden circle. And his big mantra is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that was very much our goal with Greenbirds. Now, for us, that wasn't about coffee. It was about community and tackling social isolation. So we wanted to make those a real feature of our page. I think the other thing when you're working with an online format is we wanted it to be really visually engaging. And so that's something we focused on as well. It was getting the right pictures and developing a video. We called in a favor from a friend to do that, or to get that why message across.
Fantastic. And I think actually there's some really great advice there in terms of telling your story. So some of the things that we find really works for crowdfunding specifically is to present the problem which your project is trying to tackle and actually how you're part of that solution. Very, very much like what Rory was speaking about the why. And although often crowdfunding is about the future, it's about what you want to do, don't forget about the past and the present as well. What has brought you up to this stage? What has kind of got you here, and what are you doing now? Do make sure that your project is very human. We want it to feel like real people have made this page, not robots. So avoid jargon, avoid putting up too much kind of technical speak, so that it's really relatable when people are reading your story. And do try and give it some context. So things like statistics, presented in a really engaging way, can be a really good way of giving your project that context, as well as other voices on the page. And what we mean by that might be a testimonial, something written by someone who's a big supporter of what you're doing. It might actually be some other people appearing in your project video and talking about how much they love your project as well. So I'm going to hand over to Bertie now, who's going to take us through some of the key things to make sure that you cover when you're telling your story on your project page.
Hi everyone. So today we're going to have a look at a live example. This is Mad Lug, which stands for Make a Difference Luggage, who are currently crowdfunding with us at the moment to raise £10,000. And as I understand it, they've already reached £10,000, so they're in their stretch target, and they've already got 23 days left to go, so they've done really, really well. So do have a look at their project page. You can find that on www.crowdfunder.co.uk/madlug. And that should give you an idea of the craftsmanship that you need to employ to make sure that your page is really understandable. From what you can see on this slide, in that screenshot of their page, in the top right-hand corner, you've got your project aim, you've got your video, your title, and the content falls below next to your rewards. And your project aim should really be something that's short, concise, and clear, so that anyone visiting your page can quickly understand the nub of what you're trying to do. And furthermore, if they want to tell someone else about the project, it's really easy to share and convey what it is you're trying to do. At Crowdfunder, we kind of boil down the essentials on a page into kind of 3 key areas. These are what you're trying to achieve, what makes your project great, and who you are and what your experience is. So what you're trying to achieve, this section should really be an elaboration on your project aim. So go into a bit more detail about what it is you're trying to do. As you can see in Madlug's case, they've started with their problem. So they've identified that health trusts do not provide suitcases for children in care. So they have found that many children are moving from family to family without any luggage to carry their personal possessions. And often, as horrific as it is, they're using bin bags to transport those things. And what they're proposing is that Madlug can provide a bag, which at £30, which will enable them to send a bag to you, so you can register your support for what they're doing, and they can donate a bag to a child without one. So again, really try and drill down on the issues at stake, and a bit of context behind what you're trying to do. And I think with all of these project pages, it's a good idea to share it with your friends and family to get their opinion, and just to make sure it makes sense, so they can tell you if there's any key information missing, or they might have some ideas for something that you can include. So next, the second point really is what makes your project great. So this is your chance to demonstrate the uniqueness, to convey the excitement and the ambition of what you're trying to do, so it stands out from the rest. So think about that word great, and think about how that applies to your project. Is it your project is sustainable? Is it ethical? Is it fantastic? Is it organic? Is it brilliant? Think about all of the different things, the terms that are associated with your project, and that could be kind of buzzwords to engage people's interests. This kind of section is a really good opportunity to talk about facts and figures to convey that importance. And as you can see here, the problem that they are addressing is that there are over 90,000 children in care over the UK and Ireland. So that's a lot of young people who might be affected by this problem, and gives you as a business page a real understanding of the scale of what's happening. And furthermore, it makes you understand what they're trying to do, and how important their story is. What else is unique? Their bag is unbranded, so there's no stigma attached to having one. and that it's very compactable and fits into easy storage space. But yeah, beyond all of those facts, try and paint a really clear picture, get people's interest aroused and their excitement engaged with the project, because you're the best person to explain what you're trying to do. And if you can't do that now, then you need to spend a bit of time before running your project, making sure that the key principles are really drilled down, and that you've got everything there. So, final point really is, who are you and what your experience is? This is really important because, as David Linton suggests in his project, it creates a bit of more of a human element. So if you're looking at a project page, having an image of that person and a bit about them says, okay, this is the right person for the job. And that's when you can tell a bit about your background and how you got involved, and that way it can make the project much more relatable and build a bit of credibility. And this is what he's done really well. He's obviously got a huge amount of experience because he's been working in care all his life, and he makes a joke about not knowing anything about the luggage industry, which I like, bags of enthusiasm more than actual trade knowledge, but it shows that he's dedicated, he's passionate, and ultimately I think that he's the right person for this job because he's identified this wrong in society and he's trying to make it right. And as you can see, he's added a bit about his credentials, saying that the Observer named Madlog as one of their new radicals in 2016, which is a fantastic accolade. It makes you think, okay, these people should be on my radar, and gives me some confidence that what they're doing is widely recognized as good, and it should be something that maybe I should be pledging on. So as you can see with those 3 prior slides, they are very grey and boring. So that really is your challenge, is to get that page visitor to hover over your page for as long as possible. Because in this day and age, people do not spend that much time looking and reading as much as they should. Ideally, it would be great if they did read absolutely everything, but you've got to bear in mind that people might not have much time. They'll be scanning through, and if someone sees blocks of text, they're not going to be inspired, and they're going to probably switch off, and they won't be able to see those understand the importance of what you're trying to do and make a pledge. So do include high-res imagery where appropriate to support what you're saying. As mentioned in that About You section, create something of you so people can see, okay, that's the person who's looking after our money. He's going to make it happen. As I said, any images that are going to support further what you're trying to do. Testimonials, what Sammy mentioned earlier, and which I think Rory and Greenberg did a good job in. They featured testimonials in their video and on that page of local people who like their product and respect what they're trying to do, and that adds further credibility to the page. Headings, so important. Lots of projects don't do this, and that's the first thing that I always tell them is include headings on your page, because for that person who's scanning through, it's really important that they can pick out the key information and that it's readily available. So do make sure that you do that. Infographics can be a great way to display information. So if you've got facts and figures, and if your project is heavy in statistics, then you might want to be a bit more creative with that presentation. For example, when you're talking about budgets or your target, it's quite good to break that down. Maybe we see it in the pie chart quite often, in the areas of expenditure detailed out, which is very visual and useful to someone to see. Okay, that's where money's going in those different areas.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Bertie. So I think there's some really fantastic advice in there, and I'm going to now ask Rory for his opinion on this. So you guys had such a great project page. We can see a little preview of it here. How did you make sure that your page was really relatable?
I think it was just about using people to bring it to life. Like, as I explained earlier, our project was a lot more about a community as opposed to any individual product. So there is some pictures of cakes and things like that, and those are things that we sell. But really, it's about people, and so we wanted to bring those, to show those people's personalities through the page. Really, we used a lot of close-up shots of people's faces. We wanted people to be smiling. People had to keep reminding me to do that. And we wanted to focus on those community aspects. And that was one of the things we used the testimonials for. It's just to say, well, look, this is something that I believe is happening, and to give it that boost and that credibility, really be open and honest about who we were. One of the things that really also we wanted to come out of it was the kind of sense of fun of being part and doing a project like this. And we're always having fun. And so if people watch the video back and things, if they get a chance to visit, there's this sort of there's this kind of edge of ridiculousness that runs through it. But that's a bit like what Running Greenbirds is like. And we didn't want to hide that. We wanted to reveal it so people could feel part of it. So that was our real focus. Fantastic.
Thanks so much. So we're going to move on swiftly now to talk about rewards really quickly. So we are a rewards-based crowdfunding platform, of course. So this is something which is very much core to crowdfunding for us. So rewards are most simply an exchange. Rather than a normal sort of donation where you put some money in a pot and then you walk off and get on with your life, the fact that you've gone through that exchange, we find is a greater attraction for those people who might be coming and looking at what you're doing. It also increases the value in terms of that contribution, of how much they might be contributing towards making your idea happen. And it also increases that sense of advocacy. And I think that's something really key. And we did mention it in our first webinar, where we find that people who have taken part in that exchange, where they've contributed to your journey and got something really worthwhile back in return, they tend to be on for the long haul and tend to be people that stay around and, as Rory said, become sort of part of that community. So some key points really quickly on rewards. You want to make sure that they're good value for money. Unless your name is Christian Dior, don't try and put a t-shirt up for £100. You're going to really struggle to get a lot of pledges on something like that. Things that are unique, things that are authentic and exclusive work really, really well on rewards. And do make sure that you're offering things that are worthwhile. Not necessarily that they cost a lot. It doesn't have to be that they're kind of worth a lot. Just that they're worthwhile to the person who's contributing. So, Rory, tell us about how you guys at Greenwords approached rewards.
We really approached them as gifts. I understand what you're saying about sort of commercial value and things like that, and they were loosely tied to that. But I think we recognised when we're choosing rewards that this is part of a social project, and to a degree, people would always be giving out of their generosity as well as just to receive something. So we regard them in that way. We tried to pick a lot of different rewards, actually. I think there were 10 or 12 levels, and it was really so there was something for everyone. And we thought about our target audiences in advance, like, oh well, what would this audience like? What would that audience like? And we tried to put it out there. One point of yours I really agree with is what you said about advocacy. We found quite often that, say, if one person from one of our target audiences, for example, I play for a local sports team, and I had a few friends in there that bought awards, and immediately they were bought rewards. And immediately that they were brought in, they then shared it more widely in the sports team. We had all these other people joining in and giving as well, so that was the two big takeaways for us. Make sure there's something for everyone. And also those advocates can really boost your campaign.
Fantastic. Thanks. I think that's, again, really great advice. So I'm going to whip through just to give you a bit of an idea of what kind of rewards you might be able to give. These are the 4 main types of rewards. What I will say is that we always see rewards coming in that we've never seen before. There's absolutely no limit on what you can sort of count as a reward. It doesn't have to be something physical, but it can be. It's entirely up to you to work out from your audience what is going to be right for them. So thinking about some of these key types. So products and services, I think, is the obvious one. This one works particularly well if that product or that service is core to what you do. So you can see the example there from Madlug. Of course, it's all about these bags. So that is their kind of core reward is based around that. Similarly, this other example here is for a food production company where they actually create these products. And therefore, you know, those products were very much key to their reward structure. Next, and actually my favourite, is experiences and events. The reason this is my favourite is because it actually gets people in the door. It gets people actually engaging with you kind of, you know, outside of the offline world and actually, so outside of the online world and out in the real world. It's a really great way, again, to deliver lots of rewards without spending lots of money. So if you put on one event or a thank you party or a performance or whatever that is, you can invite along a really large number of people, therefore delivering a lot of rewards all at the same time, all in one go. It's kind of many birds with one stone. Sponsorship is, of course, a really great way to attract large corporate support or support from large organisations. But actually, it's also works really well for just kind of your average person in the street. They're not usually costly, and they work particularly well for those projects, like what Rory was saying, where actually the motivation behind them backing the project is more than just wanting the rewards. Actually, they want to see this happen and they feel an affinity to what you're doing anyway. So sponsorship can be a really great way of kind of rewarding that and kind of giving apt thanks, if you like, to what it is that they've contributed. And of course, just thank yous. It's not all about rewards. If your project is really strong, and we know back from our first session on planning your project, that your audience is really, really interested in what you're doing just because they think it's great, they think it's worthwhile. Every single project has that just donate box that you can see there in the bottom left-hand corner. So no matter whether you add rewards or not, everyone has the option to donate if they'd like to just contribute. And you can do sort of different creative things with the thank yous. There's one of my favourites up there is a recent project where you actually got the chance to name one of 2 beavers who are being released back into Cornwall after 400 years of being extinct. So you can do fun and creative things with it. It doesn't need to be super dull. Now, one of the questions that I get asked quite a lot is to stack or not to stack. And what I mean by that is the way in which people sometimes offer a list of rewards and they say you get everything above plus this, or everything included in the £5 reward plus this. And they just keep adding one extra thing to the list as they go through and make together, you know, that full list of rewards. Now, my personal view on this is that often stacking isn't necessarily the right way to go. This is from my years of working with hundreds and hundreds of projects on Crowdfunder. Often we'll find that the thing that they really wanted is the thing that they bought at that reward level. And all the other stuff is kind of added bits and bobs that they weren't necessarily super interested in. That doesn't mean that you can't create packages that are a bunch of stuff all kind of added together. You can, of course, do that, but having a massive long list where everything that you get the thing above, sometimes you end up, for example, having to deliver a thank you, a mug, a t-shirt, a hoodie, a badge, etc. The list goes on. They may be a great supporter of what you're doing, but the chances of them needing all of that stuff is probably quite low. But do feel free to comment on this video on YouTube and let us know your thoughts and feelings about this, because we're definitely interested to hear what you think about it. So before next week, there's a couple of things that we would definitely advise that you get on and start doing. So start doing a draft of your project description. Doesn't need to be final. You can, of course, go back and edit and tweak, but start writing. Brainstorm some reward ideas as well. Start to think about some different ideas. It doesn't matter how crazy or bonkers they are, different things that you might be able to offer, and start to calculate your target. That's something that we haven't really spoken about much in this session, but if you download that second guide on creating your project, you'll find a full page that explains how to go about and calculating the right target for your project in there. So I'd absolutely advise getting on and doing that. It's absolutely the best way to figure out what is going to be the best target for you. Please do get in touch if you have any questions, any queries, or you'd like to contribute. There's a couple of ways you can do that. You can, of course, comment on this video on YouTube. You can send a tweet over, we're at Crowdfunder UK, or you can get in touch with us via the usual channels on the Crowdfunder website. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I hope you found it useful. I know I've really enjoyed it. Thanks, Bertie, for joining us. And also a huge thanks to Rory and the team at Greenbirds, not only for being fantastic crowdfunders, but for joining us today to pass on some of their experiences.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks very much, Rory.
Cheers. See you all next time. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.